Imagine living in a world where the word billionaire didn't even exist. Yet a few extraordinary individuals held unimaginable power, wealth, and influence. These were the 19th century industrialists, the original titans of industry who laid the foundation for modern capitalism. They didn't just accumulate wealth, they shaped nations, built empires, and left legacies that still echo today. But their stories aren't just about money. They're tales of ambition, innovation, and sometimes ruthless tactics. Curious to know who these figures were and how they amassed such fortunes? Let's dive into the world of the 19th century billionaires. In the flickering gaslight of a rapidly industrializing world, a handful of men rose from obscurity to build colossal empires. Picture the bustling streets of New York, where carriages clattered over cobblestones and factories belched smoke into the sky. It was here, in this era of progress and turmoil, that these industrial magnates seized their opportunities. Among them were names like Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Vanderbilt, men whose fortunes were so vast that they were the billionaires of their time, long before the term existed. Their rise wasn't just about money. It was about vision, determination, and the often harsh realities of their methods. The birth of industrial giants. The 19th century marked the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, a period of massive technological innovation and economic transformation. It was an era that saw the rise of industries like steel, oil, railroads, and shipping, industries that would not only drive the economy, but also redefine society. Amidst this backdrop, a group of visionary entrepreneurs emerged, determined to harness the power of these new industries to create immense wealth. These industrial giants weren't just businessmen, they were pioneers who saw potential where others saw risk. They built the infrastructure that would connect continents, fuel economies, and pave the way for modern capitalism. Cornelius Vanderbilt, for instance, started with a small ferry business, but quickly recognized the potential of steamships and railroads. His strategic investments and ruthless competition allowed him to dominate the transportation industry, making him one of the wealthiest men of his time. These giants weren't born into wealth. They built their empires through sheer determination, innovation, and sometimes cutthroat tactics. They were willing to take risks, exploit opportunities, and outmaneuver their competitors to achieve success. Their influence extended beyond their industries, shaping the very fabric of American society. They laid the groundwork for the modern economy, creating jobs, building infrastructure, and driving technological progress. However, their methods also raised questions about the ethical implications of their business practices, a debate that continues to this day. The Rockefeller Empire. John D. Rockefeller's empire was built on a foundation of oil, a resource that would come to dominate the 20th century. In 1870, Rockefeller co-founded Standard Oil, a company that quickly grew to control nearly 90% of the U.S. oil market. His approach to business was both strategic and ruthless. Rockefeller understood that controlling the supply chain, from extraction to distribution, was key to maintaining dominance. He used his immense financial resources to buy out competitors, create favorable deals with railroads, and even engage in price wars to drive others out of business. Rockefeller's success wasn't just due to his aggressive tactics, it also stemmed from his ability to innovate within the industry. He introduced new technologies and processes that improved efficiency and reduced costs, allowing Standard Oil to undercut its competitors. However, his monopoly over the oil industry also attracted significant criticism. Many saw Rockefeller as a symbol of corporate greed and corruption, leading to the eventual breakup of Standard Oil in 1911 under antitrust laws. Despite his controversial business practices, Rockefeller was also a devout Christian who believed that his wealth was a divine gift. He became one of the greatest philanthropists of his time, donating vast sums to education, science, and public health. The Rockefeller Foundation, established in 1913, continues to have a profound impact on global philanthropy. His dual legacy, one of immense wealth and ruthless ambition, balanced by profound generosity, makes Rockefeller a complex and fascinating figure in American history. Carnegie's Gospel of Wealth. Andrew Carnegie, a Scottish immigrant, embodies a classic rags to riches story. Starting as a poor factory worker, He eventually became one of the wealthiest men in the world through his domination of the steel industry. Carnegie's rise was marked by his ability to recognize and seize opportunities in the rapidly industrializing American economy. He understood the importance of steel in building the nation's infrastructure, from railroads to skyscrapers, and invested heavily in technology and processes that made steel production faster and more efficient. But Carnegie's story is not just about amassing wealth. It's about his philosophy of wealth. In 1889, he published an essay titled The Gospel of Wealth, where he articulated his belief that the wealthy had a moral obligation to use their fortunes for the betterment of society. Carnegie argued that those who accumulated wealth were merely trustees of that wealth, responsible for using it in ways that would benefit the greater good. Carnegie lived by this philosophy, donating almost 90% of his fortune to various causes, including the establishment of over 2,500 public libraries and numerous educational institutions. His philanthropic efforts were unprecedented and set a new standard for how the wealthy could contribute to society. However, Carnegie's methods of wealth accumulation were not without controversy. His labor practices, particularly the violent suppression of strikes, highlighted the ethical dilemmas faced by those who amassed great fortunes in the 19th century. Vanderbilt's legacy. Cornelius Vanderbilt, known as the Commodore, was a key figure in the transformation of American transportation. Starting from humble beginnings, Vanderbilt initially made his fortune in the steamboat industry before turning his attention to railroads. His strategic focus on transportation allowed him to amass one of the largest fortunes of the 19th century. Vanderbilt was not just a businessman, he was a visionary who understood the potential of a connected America. He invested in railroads when others were hesitant, ultimately creating a transportation network that would become the backbone of the nation's economy. Vanderbilt's legacy is one of both immense wealth and relentless ambition. He was known for his aggressive business tactics, including price wars and hostile takeovers, which earned him as many enemies as admirers. Despite his ruthless reputation, Vanderbilt was also a family man who placed great importance on securing his legacy for his descendants. He left the majority of his fortune to his son William, ensuring the continuation of the Vanderbilt dynasty. However, Vanderbilt's fortune did not last forever. By the mid-20th century, much of the wealth had dissipated due to mismanagement and the lavish lifestyle of his descendants. The Vanderbilt name, once synonymous with power and wealth, became a cautionary tale of how quickly fortunes can fade. Yet, Vanderbilt's impact on American industry and society remains undeniable, as he played a crucial role in shaping the infrastructure that fueled America's growth during the Industrial Revolution. The dark side of wealth. The 19th century industrialists, despite their monumental successes, operated in a world where the pursuit of wealth often overshadowed ethical considerations. The immense fortunes they accumulated came at a cost, and the dark side of their wealth reveals a stark reality of labor exploitation, environmental degradation, and monopolistic practices. In the pursuit of their vast fortunes, figures like John D. Rockefeller and Andrew Carnegie employed tactics that often disregard the well-being of workers and the environment. For instance, Rockefeller's Standard Oil used aggressive and sometimes illegal tactics to eliminate competition, including secret deals with railroads and predatory pricing strategies. These practices stifled competition and created a monopolistic environment that concentrated immense power in the hands of a few. Labor conditions were equally grim. Factories and steel mills operated under harsh conditions, with long hours, unsafe environments, and meager wages. Carnegie Steel, under Carnegie's management, was notorious for its brutal treatment of workers, including the violent suppression of labor strikes. The Homestead Strike of 1892, where Carnegie's hired guards clashed with striking workers, is a stark example of how industrial magnates prioritized profits over human lives. Environmental damage was another significant issue. The rapid industrialization led to pollution and ecological destruction, often with little regard for the long-term impact on the environment. Factories and railroads spewed pollutants into the air and waterways, contributing to health problems and ecological imbalances. The dark side of wealth in the 19th century underscores the ethical dilemmas faced by these industrial giants. Their success was built on practices that often exploited both people and the environment, leading to long-lasting consequences that continue to influence discussions about corporate responsibility and regulation. Philanthropy, redemption, or responsibility. The concept of philanthropy among 19th century billionaires like Andrew Carnegie and John D. Rockefeller presents a complex picture of redemption and responsibility. Their immense wealth enabled them to make significant contributions to society, but the motivations and impacts of their philanthropy remain subjects of debate. Andrew Carnegie, in his Gospel of Wealth, argued that the rich had a moral obligation to use their fortunes for the betterment of society. His philanthropy was unprecedented. He donated vast sums to build libraries, fund educational institutions, and support scientific research. Carnegie believed that the wealthy should live modestly and use their surplus wealth to address social issues, a philosophy that guided much of his charitable work. John D. Rockefeller also engaged in significant philanthropy, establishing institutes like the Rockefeller Foundation. His donations funded medical research, public health initiatives, and educational reforms. Rockefeller's philanthropy was driven by a belief that his wealth was a divine blessing meant to be used for the common good. Despite his philanthropic efforts, his business practices were often criticized for contributing to economic inequality and monopolistic control. The debate over whether their philanthropy was an attempt at redemption or a sense of responsibility is ongoing. On one hand, their donations helped fund important social and educational advancements. On the other hand, critics argue that their philanthropic efforts were a way to mitigate the negative impacts of their business practices, allowing them to maintain their status and influence while addressing some of the societal issues they had contributed to. The legacy of their philanthropy raises important questions about the responsibilities of the wealthy and the role of charitable giving in addressing social inequalities. It challenges us to consider how wealth can be used to effect positive change, while also acknowledging the systemic issues that allow such wealth to accumulate in the first place. Lessons from the 19th century billionaires. The stories of the 19th century billionaires like Cornelius Vanderbilt, Andrew Carnegie, and John D. Rockefeller offer valuable lessons for today's world. Their successes and failures provide insights into the nature of wealth, the impact of industrialization, and the responsibilities that come with immense power. One key lesson is the power of vision and perseverance. These industrial giants were not just wealthy individuals, they were pioneers who saw opportunities where others saw obstacles. Vanderbilt's investment in railroads revolutionized transportation. Carnegie's innovations in steel production transformed industry, and Rockefeller's control over oil established new standards for business practices. Their ability to foresee and capitalize on emerging trends was crucial to their success. The human side of wealth. It's easy to think of these 19th century billionaires as larger-than-life figures, but they were also human beings with flaws, ambitions, and contradictions. Vanderbilt was known for his fiery temper and ruthless tactics, but he was also a man who valued family and loyalty. Rockefeller was a devout Christian who believed his wealth was a blessing, yet he didn't hesitate to crush his competitors to achieve his goals. Carnegie was a philanthropist who gave away most of his fortune, but he was also a man who believed that the rich had a duty to control how their wealth was used. These contradictions made their stories all the more fascinating. They weren't just men who accumulated wealth, they were men who shaped the world around them, for better or worse. The 19th century billionaires were more than just wealthy individuals. They were architects of modern industry and society. They saw opportunities where others saw obstacles, and they had the vision and determination to turn their dreams into reality. But their legacies are complex, marked by both incredible achievements and ethical dilemmas. As we look back on their stories, it's important to consider what we can learn from them. Their successes remind us of the power of innovation and perseverance, but their failures and the consequences of their actions serve as a cautionary tale about the responsibilities that come with great wealth. In today's world, where the gap between the rich and the poor continues to widen, the lessons of the 19th century billionaires are more relevant than ever. How can we ensure that the wealth created in our society is used for the greater good? And how can we balance the pursuit of success with the need for ethical and responsible practices?